Now the first question I'll ask you all is, after 2 rounds of the Rugby Championship, who would have thought that all teams would have had 1 win and 1 loss? I don't think there would have been many people out there who honestly can put their hand on their heart and say that would have been the case. Well, we've now got that situation, and the All Blacks and the South Africans, the teams that everybody was talking about as being the clear favourites in this year's Rugby Championship, have both been beaten by teams other than themselves. So that really sets us up now for a magnificent game at Eden Park, but also in Townsville between Australia and Los Pumas, because this Rugby Championship is well and truly open. Well, before I say anything at all, congratulations to all the Argentinian Los Pumas rugby fans across the world. That was a fantastic win in the Rugby Championship in Buenos Aires today. That was absolutely amazing to watch. Congratulations, all that history now. You've finally beaten the All Blacks at home, and what a feeling that must be. Now let's get in and talk about the game just after the final whistle has blown a few minutes ago. So I'll try and unpack this game in a brief video today, because I will do a more detailed one later on. But 29 points to 23, the final score, and there was something about Los Pumas today. Even when they were singing their national anthem, you could tell that the vibe was different. And I do believe it comes from what I talked about in my preview video, the fact that I thought the Argentinians last week needed that run against the All Blacks to come out and really target this game as their opportunity of beating the All Blacks. But I never expected them to do it without Thomas Albanos, and that injury early on in this game for the Pumas today, I thought that was probably the end of their chances, because I do see Thomas Albanos as being an absolutely key figure in this Pumas team if they're going to have any chance in this competition. But they proved me wrong once again, and I'll take that, no problem at all, because Santiago Carreras probably played the game of his life for the Pumas today in making sure that all the kicks that he did get a chance at doing, he got over. But more than that, he was brilliant also on defence, and he was also good at setting up the back line for Argentina. But we saw some really good players today from Argentina. Wasn't Pablo Matera fantastic? He was just into absolutely everything, and he played one of his best games I've ever seen him play in the blue and white jersey today. I just thought he was outstanding. But there was a lot of good players, and the discipline that Argentina had for a lot of the game was very good. It kept them in the game today, but they kept going back to their DNA. They kept opening the ball up. Mateo Carreras was also brilliant on the wing, wasn't he? He came into this game as well for Esgro, and I thought he was absolutely outstanding. He did so many great runs, and he made the All Black defensive line look pretty ordinary at times when he had ball in hand. So a brilliant performance from Mateo Carreras. But we're seeing so many injuries, aren't we, in this Rugby Championship, and it's a little bit concerning because it's taking some key players out of it. We saw Ratimer go off today for the All Blacks as well. He got a spleen injury by the look of it, and he was in a lot of pain. And that man Finlay Christie came on, and you probably all thought that I was up clapping my hands when Finlay Christie came on. But I tell you what, I saw him do some really good things today, but he just still didn't play that part in the back line of making a difference for the All Blacks, and I think that was one of the components. But I will give Finlay Christie some credit. I saw him do some good things. He was tough over the ball and did a couple of good steals. A couple of his kicks were poor. He didn't give his team an opportunity to get up and compete for the ball, and he didn't get a lot of distance from those kicks. So he wasn't atrocious, but he wasn't outstanding, and he definitely didn't have the class of a Ratimer, a Roygaard or a Hotham, and really making the difference in this All Black team. And I thought that was one of the pivotal things that happened in this game for the All Blacks. They looked pretty flat and pretty ho-hum when it came to their back line once again. Rieko Ioane had a chance there to get a try, but he wasn't able to finish like Sevu Reece has done in the last week or so. So that was another area where Rieko was, 5 meters from the line. Granted, he had 3 or 4 Argentinian players to try and beat, but he just didn't look like getting over the line, and it ended up being Fletcher Newell that would get the All Blacks try on that particular occasion. The All Blacks discipline in this game: 2 yellow cards in the first half, Will Jordan and also Tupou Vai, and the All Blacks down to 13 men during that period. And I tell you what, the Argentinians did really well. They could have and should have scored probably another couple of tries, shouldn't they, during that period of time when the All Blacks were down to 13 men. Dalgi just dropped that ball as he was heading over the line. But I tell you what, it was a fantastic tackle by Beauden Barrett. He did another one a couple of minutes later that put the Argentinians over the touchline. And we went to half-time 13-all, which I thought was a tremendous result for Argentina because they were in this game. And I had no fear that they were going to run out of sting in the second half because I thought they'd come out and play the rugby that they did in the second half. I must say I was disappointed in the All Blacks forwards today. They didn't have the dominance that we saw last weekend. Everybody was talking it up, including myself, that the dominant forward display was going to bring the All Blacks home in this game, and this is a major worry because I was asking myself before the game started today, I said, what happens if the All Black forwards don't turn up today? It's going to be a game of spontaneity, and Argentina are going to be better because they've got a better backline. And we saw that today. They have got a better backline. Their combinations were good. Choco Barras had a good game, didn't he? He got up over the advantage line on a number of occasions. He just put his head down and he went for it. And when him and Sinti get the ball, they look like they're dangerous and they're going to create something. Whereas we still saw problems from the All Blacks. I did think Billy Proctor had a good game. Until he was subbed off. He did a couple of things really good in this game, so I'll give kudos to Billy Proctor. I'm not going to knock him on this occasion, but Geordie Barrett went missing again, did he? Didn't see much of him at all in a creative sense again for the All Blacks, and this is where Choco Barras and Sinti for me were just far superior. And then you had Dalgi and Mateo Carreras doing what they were doing outside with Malia coming up from fullback, and that Argentinian backline looks so good and dangerous when they've got ball in hand. And what they did really well was they kept the All Blacks tackling. The All Black tackle count was through the roof at the beginning of that second half. And as a result of that, they got tired and they started falling off tackles and they started creating opportunities for Argentina. If you look at the try that Garcia got, Pablo Matera came off the base of the scrum. He ran about 10 metres before anybody got to him. Christie didn't tackle him, the loose forwards didn't get to him, and the number 10 never came up and got him as well. As soon as the ball was fed back from that maul, it was straight for Garcia to go over and score the try. So that was a pretty poor effort from a defensive point of view from the All Blacks, and that will be really worrying for Scott Robertson because there was no way that Argentina should have got that close with that run from Matera. Look, I'm not going to spend all this video complaining about the All Blacks. There was a lot of things that they didn't do right, and I'll make other videos about this. I want to give a lot of credit to the Argentinians for this game because 13 points at all half-time. They might have expected the All Blacks to come out really firing once they got back to 15 men apiece in that second half, and they didn't have to wait long for Will Jordan to come back on the field. And the New Zealand commentators were always playing it up, saying, yeah, once Jordan gets back on the field and Tupou Vaa'i, the All Blacks are going to run home in the last 20 minutes. Well, that didn't happen at all because we saw the passion, we saw the courage, and we saw the discipline for Argentina. Yes, they got warned to get a yellow card, but now they didn't get a yellow card, Argentina, and that was an outstanding performance from that point of view because they kept all their players on the field, and that, I believe, is another thing that made a huge difference. Also, the box kicking was very good. They had a lot of contestables. I saw a kick from Dalgi that he kicked, he chased, he caught, and he kept going, and they did that a number of times. Malia did one as well. The All Blacks had trouble dealing with the high ball, as we've seen from a number of teams in this year's Rugby Championship. We saw it again today from the Wallabies, struggling with the high ball from the Springboks. I think this Rugby Championship competition is going to turn into an aerial ping pong competition over the next few rounds because that seems to be a problem area for a lot of teams. Sevu Reece got a yellow card in the second half when he was desperate to try and get his hands on the ball to make a difference for the All Blacks, but once again the discipline fell over for the All Blacks. They can't afford to do this in the big games. They need to be able to remain patient, and I think that's one of the big things that I got out of this game from the All Blacks. They weren't letting their platform do the work and then get the ball out to make some headway. I saw a couple of bad kicks again from Beauden Barrett over to Neville Nobody in the back of the Argentinians with no All Blacks running onto it. So that contestable kicking from the All Blacks from number 10 is not going very well. Despite Beauden Barrett having a fantastic game from a defensive point of view, particularly when Jordan and Vaa'i were off the field, I thought that's still a weakness of their game, and I didn't see anything improve when Damien McKenzie came on later in the game for the All Blacks. And obviously Scott Robertson was trying something different by bringing McKenzie on, hoping that he would open up the game, and that didn't happen from the All Blacks at that stage. 13 all at half time, and I think what else Argentina did very clever in this game is for the first 15 minutes of the second half. They kept it tight, they kept their opportunities going, but they kept putting multiple phases on. They earned themselves 2 good penalties, which Santiago Carreras was able to get over, so they kept the scoreboard ticking over at the same time. So they went out to 19 points to 13 after half time, after that first 15 minutes, and then they were making the All Blacks work for the game, and I think that was really intelligent rugby from Los Pumas. But it was just before the 60-minute when Garcia went over from that try made by Pablo Matera that I thought, wow, this is really big trouble now for the All Blacks. There was still 20 minutes left in the game, and I'm sure a lot of Kiwi fans were thinking we can still win this. The commentators were still saying that, that's for sure, in New Zealand. But I could see that that particular try really gave Argentina the belief, and I didn't think they were going to get run down in the last part of this game. Yeah, and they were controlling enough of the ball in open play, and they weren't being crazy stupid with it. They kept their passion and adrenaline under control today, and that's another thing that we need to see from this Argentinian team, because we talk about their level of consistency. So when you're consistently able to remain patient when you've got a lead, you can bring games home like this and win in the end. I think this win at home against the All Blacks is going to do as much for their belief as the win away in New Zealand did. Now Argentina have beaten every top 1 tier rugby team in Argentina, and that's going to be another feather in their cap. So when Takiaho scored the try for the New Zealanders in a pretty much duplication of what we saw last weekend off a rolling line-out maul, I thought, okay, this is their opportunity to come back into it. But again, Argentina, they just consolidated, and they steadied the ship by getting another penalty to Santiago Carreras. And when that kick went over with 7 minutes left in the game, you could really feel that Argentina were going to win this game, and good on them. They absolutely deserved it, and I was up off my seat along with my wife cheering them on, because it was a fantastic win for Los Pumas today. Now, I'm not going to say what a lot of people have been saying about the South African Wallaby game today in terms of South Africa being so poor and off their game and all the rest of it. I'm not going to say that about the All Blacks in the respect that, yes, they didn't play well, but Argentina didn't let them play well. Argentina did a lot of good things right in this game, and it was the same with the Wallabies in South Africa. They still did a lot of things that asked questions of the Springboks, and the Springboks only had one answer, and that was that try from Etzebeth in the end of the game. The same thing here from the All Blacks. The Argentinians kept asking questions of the All Blacks, and they weren't able to keep them out. So rather than saying the All Blacks were absolutely shocking, a lot of errors they made, it was because the Argentinians were playing good rugby. They were putting them under the pressure. The forwards turned up today. Matera was outstanding for me on the field today. So was Juan Martin Gonzalez. He started the game today, and Kremer came in off the bench, and I thought that strategically was a brilliant move from Contepomi, because having Juan Martin Gonzalez on the field, it really paid dividends. He scored that good try, he nearly got another one, and he was very, very good at the breakdown. I said that he's going to be one of the stars of the Rugby World Cup in 2027, and I'm not changing my mind about that. I thought Garcia played a better game today. I was on his back last weekend because I thought he was too slow. There was a couple of times today where his passing was still too slow, but his box kicks were pretty good, and he put Argentina on the front foot. And I think with Santiago Carreras there, they were able to get Choco Barras and Cinti away on a number of occasions. That got them over the advantage line, and they turned the All Blacks around. And what we're seeing in this Rugby Championship is when you turn that rush defence around, you've got opportunities in behind. And when you've got guys like Delgi and Malia and Mateo Carreras, you've got opportunities to really put the opposing team under pressure, and that's exactly what we saw today. Got to say, I always pump up Will Jordan when I make videos about the Kiwis, but I think he had one of his poorest games in the All Black jersey today. Not only did he get a yellow card, he made a couple of mistakes in terms of decision making in this game that didn't help the All Blacks. Were there any standouts for the All Blacks? Well, I thought Fabian Holland had another good game. Scott Barrett played well. Savia made some really good runs. Wallace Satiti had trouble getting into the game when he came on. Tamati Williams didn't really add the spark in terms of replacing Ethan de Groot and giving the domination in the forwards for the All Blacks. So across the field, it wasn't just the backs for the All Blacks that were undoing in this game, it was the whole team. And I'm talking about the 23 that played. So for me, again, the bench was a disappointment for the All Blacks. Quinn Tupai didn't do anything for me when he came on. Damien McKenzie didn't do anything to change the game really in terms of points on the board. And it was just disappointing. Josh Lord was solid, but without being brilliant when he came on. And in terms of Simon Parker's debut, well, he had a solid game, but he was on a losing team. I saw him have one really good run, but the rest of the time he wasn't very obvious in that New Zealand pack. I'll make another detailed video about this in the coming days, and we'll talk a lot more about specific players and get into that detail. But I just wanted to congratulate Argentina. I think it's fantastic again for the Rugby Championship that we're seeing the favourite teams being beaten, and that's 2 weeks in a row now. So what could happen next time out? We could see a draw at Eden Park, and we could see Argentina winning in Townsville. The permutations are endless now for this Rugby Championship. It's absolutely brilliant. So there we go, 29 points to 23, a fantastic historic win to the Argentinian Los Pumas down there in Buenos Aires today. Absolutely brilliant for Argentinian rugby. I'll be talking about this for the next week, that's for sure. And I'd like to know from you what you thought of the game in this initial video that I'm making after the final whistle. What were the All Black problems? Let me know. What do you think the Argentinians did well to get over top of this All Black team? I thought it was a team performance from Argentina, I really did. If I go through their entire back line and I look at what their forwards did, I thought it was really, really brilliant. And to be able to do this against the All Blacks without Thomas Albanos there for the majority of the game, this is a statement win against the New Zealand All Blacks, and it puts on warning everybody else now in the Rugby Championship competition. Okay, so there we go. I'll leave it at that for this particular video. Make sure you leave your comments down below. If you're following along the journey with me in the Rugby Championship, hit the subscribe button. Give this video one of those things, and I'll be back over the next couple of days with much more detailed videos about what we've seen happen in this round of the Rugby Championship. And until then, it's time to say adios from beautiful Cancun as the sun sets down here in Mexico. See you all again soon. Bye for now.